Good morning, everybody. We're going to look at just Atom this morning. That's right, we're going to look at Atom. I'm going to single out a particular altcoin, an altcoin that usually disgusts everyone, including myself, and we're going to focus on this one chart because something's going on here. It's actually changed its tune. And if you zoom out long enough, you go to like a weekly, for instance, you can see that actually the inception point of price is more or less where this triple bottom, if you want to call it that, has taken place from. Now the weekly still looks relatively sad, compared to trend. It was born in not born, but it's been in a death cross since summer of 2023. Retested the simple moving average death cross to get rejected in 2024, and then basically another retest of the exponential death cross just in last November. That's where it basically came back down to the bottom area, really. $3.60, basically $3.60. Okay, so the BYDFi Index has hit a relatively decent low. If it did come down to make another low, that's okay, that's fine. I mean, I don't know if anyone knows about my hodl strategy for Atom, but because it stakes such significant amount, right, I believe that holding any crypto for a prolonged period of time could be pretty dodgy. But there's a few things that makes it a bit more palatable. One of them being utility, and Atom has that. Basically, it's not one of those stupid meme coins that's just going to evaporate into thin air. It's not a rug pull. There's stuff going on here that actually, if you look at the bigger picture of if crypto were to become utilized generally, then Atom plays a big role. Even if you're betting on like a chain link or an XRP or something like that. So there's utility involved in it, right? Okay, so it's got that. The team's pretty active, and again, I'm not one of these fundamental analysis, whatever, but I do check these things just to make sure that the people who are running the show are real people that actually believe in what they're doing, and they're not. It's not just some tokenized startup. And then on top of that, what's it like to hodl it? Well, price action has not been very nice, but the staking rewards are actually very good. So they fluctuate. I do the majority of my staking, for this coin at least anyway, on Swissborg, but you can pretty much stake it on most platforms for at least 16% APR, which is pretty epic, right? Especially if you consider where you bought it from, right? And if you bought it roughly around any of these low kind of areas, and the plan, and again, my plan is to hold it for 10 years. And I know that this is a ridiculous thing to say, but it is to hold it for a prolonged period of time, almost like early retirement fund. There's not many coins out there that would have worked out well for you, but obviously Bitcoin would have been a good one, XRP would have been a good one, Solana would have been a good one. And again, these things aren't even 10 years old. Some of them are. Ethereum, good one. So you look back and go, actually, a 10-year hodl, in a handful of these coins would actually have been a pretty good idea, But it's so difficult for most people to look, ahead a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years in crypto. I mean, it is a bit of a roll of the dice. I get it. But I have selected Atom, right, for better or for worse. You could do the same for Polkadot. They basically are the same thing with the same sort of staking rewards. And that leads me obviously to think, is it a good idea or not? Well, we'll only know in 10 years. We'll only know in 10 years. I've calculated the amount of staking rewards that I would receive in 10 years. It's phenomenal, right? It's pretty sweet. And even if it were to only reach, previous all-time highs in 10 years from now, that's a 10x on top of all the staking rewards that I'd have received. So it's a pretty significant chunk of change. So here we are floating around down at these bottomy areas between the 3s and the 4s, right? And let's have a look at what's going on recently. So recently, there's not many altcoins out there that are doing this kind of thing at the moment, but this one is. On the 4 hourly, we had a nice big rally from the low. We reclaimed a lot of moving averages, which have then got a simple moving average, golden cross, and now we're forming an exponential. It's around $4.56. The simples are $4.44. These could easily get retested. However, the consolidation of momentum has already taken place, and it does look to me like it's breaking out. So we might not get the retest of this immediately. Sometimes you do. I mean, you could argue that we did a premature retest of this already and we're ready to bounce and break out further. So if we are going to bounce and break out further, we're kind of looking for areas like $5.08, $5.10 for the next sort of leg up. Just based on the 4 hourly, that could be where we move up and then back down to retest the golden cross and back up again. That's just the 4 hourly, right? The 4 hourly looks pretty sweet when you're talking about it like that. The daily's pushing the death cross resistance of the 50 exponential moving average quite close to the top of the Bollinger Band as well, with the money flow index which is outside the comfort zone. So in the short term, if we did break from here, the top target for me is going to be only around the top $5 areas, about $5.75 before a rejection, and then sort of hope for higher highs, higher low structure. So you could easily get a nice big run up here and then a nice big dump down, into the low mid fours and then back up again. We have a huge descending triangle formation, right? It's been going on since all the way back down yonder. All the way back down since basically the beginning of the, I suppose the beginning of the bull market or some point within the bear market. So we hit this significant low down here. We rallied all the way up to 17, down, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. It might be the case that this still continues with the lower high, lower low structure. But if it doesn't, the top target, if it does, the top target on this lower high, lower low structure is in the $11 zone anyway, so it's around $11.50 if it were to make its way up to here. Now, if it were to break this area, it shouldn't really, I know this is pretty phenomenal really, but it shouldn't take much for it to rally towards $30 from where we're at right now, which is a pretty sweet move. It's really one of those coins that you have to sort of think about what it would look like if certain areas get broken, whether that's down. Obviously, if it breaks down, we are heading significantly lower, below $2, I would imagine, if this area gets lost. And the whole market will be responsible for that. At the moment, it does look like it's trying to turn around. If it was to break out, then you target these areas. And these can all happen quite fast. $2, quite fast. Break out from here, $27, quite fast. But right now, we're kind of sitting down here, showing signs of reversal in a coin which normally doesn't trend very well at all, but it has kind of outperformed the majority of altcoins recently, which is bizarre. It's kind of strange. I don't know if there's something going on that someone knows about, or if it's basically just time, time for it to turn around. It has been consolidating throughout the entire bull market, and we see this in some coins. We saw this, this is like a small version of, I suppose, in a way, like XRP. XRP consolidates, basically doing its own thing, and then when it finally comes to break out, then it becomes popular and powerful, and everybody wants it, and now we're sitting at $2.40. Now, I'm not trying to put this in the same boat as XRP. I'm just saying, a chart does show areas where it can get pretty exciting, and then it shows areas where it can get pretty depressing. And at the moment, the risk to reward on this, whether it's short term or long term, I think is more than acceptable. And to buy, hold, and stake if you haven't done it is kind of good at this area. If you're looking for a short trade, that's fine. If you're going for the 10-year hodl like myself, that's a gamble, but it's reasonable to start it around these low zones around here. And then complain in 10 years. See where it is in 10 years. And again, 10 years in crypto is like an unheard of kind of scenario. But that's why I mentioned, those coins at the beginning, because if you reflect back and say, okay, if I spent 10 years in Bitcoin, I'd be pretty happy. 10 years in Ethereum, pretty happy. 10 years in XRP, I'd be pretty happy. 10 years in a lot of these things, I'd be pretty happy. Chainlink, pretty happy. You'd be pretty happy, wouldn't you, really? It's just, I'm just trying to give some perspective here, 10 years in stocks, for instance, is, that's standard, 10 years in the S&P, 10 years in the NASDAQ, 10 years in the FTSE, 10 years in whatever. It's kind of standard stuff. 10 years in crypto, it's kind of unheard of, ridiculous. Right, so we've had a look at the weekly, the daily, and the 4 hourly are specifically looking pretty interesting there. So let's just have a look at the Bitcoin pair to see how that's shaping up. Because you know, not to say that I'm expecting this to outperform Bitcoin any day soon, but let's have a look at sort of any kind of signs of life. So the weekly, well, the weekly actually hit its low back down here back in February, so quite a while back. Hasn't revisited those lows since. The dailies reclaimed the majority of moving averages. It's only got the death crosses up here at 656 and 708 sats. There's no pump, trend, signal, anything like that. But there would be towards the end of next week, if we can close above, we'll call it 600 sats, you'd get yourself a pump signal at that point. That should give you the power to at least run to 661 or 710 sats. That should give you the power for that. You can't really expect a great deal more than that with a setup like that, but that's what it suggests. The 4 hourly, again, it's going to be a carbon copy of what we saw on the tether pair, but actually more bullish. So the golden crosses took place a little bit ago now, so back in the 17th, 22nd today, and then simple moving averages the day after. So we've got a double golden cross over here and still trending up. Bit of a consolidation formation hitting the top of the Bollinger Band. You can see the resistance here. You can see the support here. Now that is basically a descending channel, falling channel. They typically do breakouts. It's just a consolidation formation. So if we do come back down here, that's no big deal. Move back up here, no big deal. Back down here. The chances are we will break out, and the measured move takes you towards the 600s, and then the next previous highs, which are around 617, which is the measured move that we had for the for the death cross on the dailies. Look, I don't know whether or not you believe in what I say. You know, it's not really about believing anything, is it? Really, it's about looking at a chart, working out risk to reward. The tether pair does look pretty attractive, especially if you're going in on the 10-year hodl kind of idea. The 4 hourly also looks quite attractive. You're looking for the short-term trade. The daily is kind of neither here nor there, nothing particularly special, but it does brew a potentially powerful move if it keeps nudging up. And even if it fails, you know, you've got an area of major support back down at the previous low, where you'd at least expect a bounce where you could exit positions if it came down there. So you could come back down to like around about 350, 360, 370, and go, all right, that hopefully is going to be it. And if it fails from there, you start closing and then getting rejected from there. You know it's going to get worse. You know it's going to get worse. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. It's a coin that never gets any views. I'll make this video. No one's going to watch it. But those of you who do watch it, you know, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. You know, obviously I'm slightly biased on something like this because I do have a plan. My plan, you know, looking at the 4 hourly for a 10-year hodl is nothing. Doesn't mean anything. You know, there is an element of trust in my own fundamental analysis and just concept of buying a token which should prove to be useful and stand the test of time over a prolonged period. That really does help to form some judgment as to what I'm doing over this 10 years, over these next 10 years for Atom, and obviously the staking and this, that, and the other. But generally, you know, tell me what you think about it, because, you know, people who love Atom probably know a lot more about it than me. I know enough to feel like I can trust trust this hodl that I've decided to go about doing. But you know, if you have a counter argument, that's fine. You know, buying and holding something that stakes for such high returns, I understand that has a deflationary aspect, you know, to the price. But overall, you know, I strongly believe that this would be good over 10 years. You know, you got to be careful when you're buying and holding and staking, especially at this point in the market, because if we do decide that the market has failed already, which I don't think is the case, fine, you know, it's going to be a painful hodl. It might even be one that never returns anything. If we decide that, you know, the market has got further to go and we break out, we break this area and break up here, and then we peak up there, and then we see a bear market that takes us all the way back down to where we started from, it'd be frustrating, obviously, because you're stuck hodling that stuff. Yeah, you get decent returns on it from the staking, but you know, from a from a fiat perspective, it's not going to be very nice. But this is where you have to sort of detach yourself from sometimes what's going on the 4-hour, daily, and even in this case, the weekly. Because 10 years from now, 10 years from now is a very different story. You know, we're looking at this chart now and trying to anticipate what it's going to look like all the way over here, right? Which is bizarre, right? But I will propose to you that actually, you know, whether we do this, you know, I think something like that is quite realistic over 10 years, right? And if that were to be the case, and this is the average entry point, you're looking at a 3,000% return, give or take 3,000%. That's not bad. It's 30x over 10 years, plus all the staking that you receive. So if we're doing, let's just say we get basically, you know, let's just say on average you're going to get 10%. You'll be getting more than that 10% APR, but 10% over 10 years, that's a full-on 100% return on your investment just from the staking rewards. So then you basically double what you see there. So that's not 3,000%, that's 6,000% over 10 years. This is my idea, okay? So whether you're looking at the breakout on the 4-hourly and the building of momentum on the 4-hourly, you know, it doesn't really matter. You know, this is the idea, this is the concept, and this is the goal. And in 10 years from now, I'll cash that in, hopefully, at 6,000% return, and that'll be it for me. I'll you know, that'll dwarf my pension. That, you know, absolutely. You know, that's epic. You know, that is epic. Or what we'll see is this. 10 years is a big time frame. But I would prefer to see the latter. I think the latter is, the former, sorry. I think that is more likely, way more likely over a 10-year period. I mean, it's unfair to do this, but we'll just have a look at Ethereum and what that looks like over a prolonged period of time. Okay, so here we are, you know, 10 years ago. Again, it's very different, but 10 years ago, 10 years in the future. You know, I know it's unfair, but this is the deal, isn't it? This is what we're kind of thinking. 10 years ago, 10 years in the future. Even with XRP, you know, what we're talking 10 years ago, 10 years in the future. So look, yeah, it's a bit of hopium, yeah, but if we're just really going to knuckle down and talk about what's going on in the short term, if that's what you're into, which is fine as well, the short term is pretty attractive as well. It's better than most altcoins. Anyway, right, I'm going to leave it with you there. Nothing much more to say. Good luck out there trading this if you want to buy it, and a good luck out there hodling it if you want to do that. Good luck across the board with whatever it is that you decide to do. But I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. Atom on the short term is good. Atom on the long term is my plan, but even Atom on the short term is good. Right, thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.